In La Paz, Bolivia, the highest form of mass transit in the world isn't a train, and it isn't a bus. It's a ski lift. Every day, hundreds of thousands of people commute to work hanging from a cable floating hundreds of feet above the rooftops. And La Paz isn't alone. Cities from Colombia to Mexico to Georgia are quietly building an entire transit network in the sky. Cable cars have existed for over a century, but almost always as tourist novelties or ski resort infrastructure. What's happening now is different. Cities are engineering cable systems specifically to move commuters, the same way they'd plan a subway line or a bus rapid transit corridor. These systems are called aerial ropeway transit, or ART, and they're becoming one of the fastest, cheapest ways for hillside and informal cities to build real public transit. La Paz sits in a steep canyon at over 3,600 meters of elevation, with its sister city El Alto perched on the rim above. Roads here are slow, congested, and brutal to build on such extreme terrain. So in 2014, La Paz opened Teleférico, now the largest urban cable car network on Earth, with 10 lines and over 30 kilometers of cable connecting the two cities.
A trip that used to take over an hour by bus, fighting traffic down switchback roads, now takes minutes in a gondola cabin gliding in a straight line over the chaos. Teleférico now carries more than 300,000 passengers a day, and it did something else too. It physically linked a wealthier city to a poorer one, cutting commute times that used to define who could access jobs at all. Medellín, Colombia got there even earlier. In 2004, the city opened Metrocable, integrating cable cars directly into its metro system as connector lines up into the steep, informal hillside neighborhoods, or comunas, that surround the city center. Before Metrocable, some residents spent 2 hours a day just walking down to reach a bus stop. The cable cars cut that to minutes, and the effect went far beyond commute times. Crime rates fell, local businesses opened along the routes, and neighborhoods that were once considered no-go zones became connected, visible parts of the city. Medellín proved something urban planners now take seriously. A gondola line can be an economic development tool as much as a transit line.
So how does this actually work? Most systems use what's called a monocable detachable gondola design. Cabins grip onto a continuously moving steel cable using a spring-loaded clamp. At each station, that clamp releases, and the cabin slows down on a rail so passengers can board safely before reattaching to the cable and accelerating back up to speed, often 18 to 20 kilometers per hour. Towers, sometimes over 100 meters tall, hold the cable up over rooftops, ravines, and rivers that would otherwise require enormous bridges or tunnels. Because the system rides above the terrain instead of through it, it sidesteps almost all the excavation, land expropriation, and utility relocation that make ground-level transit projects slow and expensive. And that's the real appeal for city planners. A kilometer of urban cable car can cost a fraction of what it costs to build a kilometer of subway or elevated rail, and it can be built in a couple of years instead of a decade. For cities with steep terrain, informal settlements, or rivers and highways that are nearly impossible to cross at ground level, a gondola line can be the only realistic way to bring rapid transit to a neighborhood at all. That's why the list keeps growing. Mexico City's cable bus, Rio de Janeiro's Complexo Duelameo line, Tbilisi in Georgia, and new proposals from cities across Asia and Africa. Urban gondolas aren't going to replace subways in flat, dense downtowns. But for the hillside cities and informal neighborhoods that traditional transit has always struggled to reach, they might be the most quietly effective transit technology of the last 20 years. If you want to keep discovering how the systems that move millions of people every day actually work, subscribe to Ride Logica. We break down planes, trains, metros, and everything in between.